My name is Zoe Hartley, and I've been a professional photographer for 8 years. I specialize in weddings, which means I've seen people at their absolute best and occasionally their absolute worst. But nothing prepared me for what happened with Becca Morrison, a woman I'd considered my best friend for 12 years. We met freshman year at the University of Oregon, assigned as roommates in a cramped cinder-block dorm room with a radiator that sounded like a dying whale and a view of the parking lot. I was an art major from Portland with purple hair and a camera I'd saved a summers to buy. She was a business major from Seattle with a 5-year plan and a collection of designer handbags her grandmother left her. We shouldn't have worked, but we did. We bonded over terrible dining hall pizza, reality TV marathons, and the shared certainty that we were destined for bigger things. Becca was the first person I told about my dream of becoming a wedding photographer. She sat on her twin bed, wrapped in a comforter, and said, "You're going to be incredible. You see things other people miss." That memory, her saying those exact words, would echo through my mind years later when everything fell apart. After graduation, I moved back to Portland and built my business from absolute zero. The first year, I photographed 5 weddings at $800 each. I lived on ramen and cold brew. I second shot for established photographers carrying their equipment for $15 an hour just to learn the craft. Becca moved to Seattle, got her MBA, and started climbing the corporate ladder at a tech company called Meridian. We stayed close. Weekly phone calls turned into monthly visits. She flew down for my 25th birthday when I'd just been dumped, and spent the whole weekend making me laugh. I flew up for her 27th when she got promoted to director, and we celebrated with overpriced cocktails at a rooftop bar overlooking Puget Sound. When I met Marcus, the man who would become my husband, Becca was the first person I called. "Tell me everything," she demanded, and I did, and she screamed with excitement so loudly I had to hold the phone away from my ear. When I got married at 28, Becca was my maid of honor. She planned my bachelorette weekend, a surprisingly tasteful affair in Cannon Beach with 4 close friends, a rented beach house, and exactly 0 strippers. She gave a speech at the reception that made everyone cry. She held my dress while I peed in the tiny bathroom of the beachfront venue. She was the sister I never had. So when Becca got engaged to Charles Harrington III, known universally as Chip, a name that told you everything you needed to know about his upbringing, I was genuinely thrilled. Chip came from old Seattle money. His family had a private island in the San Juan Islands, a 12-bedroom mansion with a helicopter pad, and a last name that appeared on at least 3 buildings at his alma mater. The wedding was going to be the social event of the season, or so Becca's mother kept saying. The budget, I later learned, was $80,000. Becca called me 6 months before the wedding. Her voice was bright and excited, the way it always was when she was about to ask for something. "Zoe, I've been thinking, instead of a traditional wedding gift, what if you did the photography? I mean, you're literally the most talented photographer I know. It would be so meaningful to have you capture the day. And it would save us so much money. You have no idea how expensive wedding photographers are." I paused. Wedding photography is my career. It's how I pay my mortgage, my health insurance, my mother's assisted living facility. A full wedding package from me: engagement session, bridal portraits, 10 hours of wedding day coverage, a second shooter, an edited gallery of 800+ images, a custom leather album, and print rights cost $6,500. That's not a wedding gift. That's a significant financial sacrifice. But this was Becca, my best friend, my maid of honor, the woman who'd held my dress while I peed. "Of course," I said. "I'd be honored." The engagement shoot was the first red flag. Becca wanted it at Golden Gardens Park in Seattle, which meant I drove 3 hours from Portland on a Saturday morning with $8,000 worth of equipment in my trunk. I spent 6 hours shooting golden hour portraits, candid shots, the works. Becca brought 3 outfit changes. Chip complained about the sand in his shoes. When we finished, exhausted and sunburned, Becca hugged me and said, "You're the best. Seriously, I can't wait to see them." She didn't offer to pay for my gas. She didn't offer to buy me dinner. She didn't even offer me a glass of water before I got back in my car for the 3-hour drive home. I delivered the edited gallery 2 weeks later. 150 images, each one carefully color graded and retouched. Becca posted them on Instagram with a long caption about "the most talented friend in the world and so blessed to have Zoe in my life." She tagged me, which meant my business account got some exposure. That was something, I told myself. 2 months before the wedding, she asked me to do a bridal portrait session. Just something simple, she said. A few hours at the Olympic Sculpture Park, another 3-hour drive, another full day of shooting. This time, I stayed overnight at a cheap motel because I was too exhausted to drive back. Becca didn't offer her guest room. Chip's parents were visiting, she explained. And the house was chaotic. I ate dinner alone at a Denny's next to the motel and tried not to think about the fact that I'd turned down a paid engagement shoot that same weekend to do this for free. 3 weeks before the wedding, she asked me to photograph the rehearsal dinner too. It'll just be a few hours, she said. You're already going to be there anyway. I was going to be there because I was supposed to be a bridesmaid. I'd bought the $400 dress, a dusty rose chiffon number that did nothing for my skin tone. I'd booked the flight to the island. I'd arranged for my husband Marcus to take time off work to come with me. I'd been planning to stand next to her at the altar, just like she'd stood next to me. Then, 3 days before the wedding, my phone rang. It was 9:30 p.m. I was editing photos in my home office. Marcus was watching a movie in the living room, and my cat was sleeping on my keyboard. Becca's name flashed on the screen. Hey, Beck. What's up? Zoe. I need to talk to you about something. It's a little awkward. Awkward was an understatement. She explained in the measured, corporate tone she used for difficult business conversations that the guest list had grown beyond expectations, and they needed to make some difficult adjustments. We're having to trim the guest count for the ceremony and reception. It's just a space issue. The venue has strict capacity limits. Okay, I said slowly. What does that mean for me? Well, you and Marcus will still be there obviously, but you'll be there as the photographer team. You'll still get to experience the day, just in a different capacity. The silence stretched between us. Becca, are you telling me that Marcus and I are being uninvited from your wedding as guests, but you still want me to work it? For free? It's not uninviting. It's repurposing. You're still essential. Actually, you're more essential now, because I need you focused on the photography, not distracted by, guest stuff, I repeated. Like eating dinner. Like watching my best friend get married. Zoe, don't make this weird. I have Chip's entire extended family to accommodate. His grandmother alone has, like 8 caregivers. We had to cut somewhere. You're the most logical choice because you'll still be there. Just with a camera. I sat in my office chair, staring at the $400 bridesmaid dress hanging on the back of my closet door. Marcus appeared in the doorway, sensing something was wrong. Let me think about it, I said. I'll call you tomorrow. I hung up before she could respond. Marcus listened to the whole story without interrupting. When I finished, he said one sentence, send her the invoice. The next morning, I opened my laptop and created a line item invoice. Engagement shoot, $1,500. Bridal portrait session, $1,200. Full wedding day coverage with second shooter, $4,500. Rehearsal dinner coverage, $800. Travel expenses, mileage, and accommodations, $950. Total, $8,950. I applied a 15% best friend discount, bringing it to $7,607.5. Net 30 days. I emailed it with a polite note. Hi Becca, since this is now a strictly professional arrangement, I've attached my standard invoice for services rendered to date and services contracted for the wedding day. Payment is due within 30 days. I'm still happy to photograph the wedding. My standard contract terms will apply. Let me know if you'd like to proceed. Best Zoe. Becca called me 12 minutes later. She was screaming. Actual screaming. The kind where you have to hold the phone away from your ear. You're charging me? After 12 years of friendship? You're going to ruin my wedding over money? I waited for her to stop. Then I spoke quietly. Becca, I've spent approximately 40 unpaid hours on your wedding so far. I've driven over 500 miles. I've turned down paying work. I bought a $400 dress I'll never wear. And you just told me I'm not welcome at your wedding as a guest. But you still expect me to work it. For free. That's not friendship. That's exploitation. I can't believe this. You're dead to me. Find another photographer? Fine, I will. Don't bother coming at all. She hung up. She didn't pay the invoice. But she also didn't get the engagement photos or the bridal portraits. Not the high-resolution files anyway. Because our contract, The one I'd had her sign before the engagement shoot, a standard industry practice she'd dismissed as just paperwork. Stipulated that final edited images were delivered upon full payment. Copyright remained with me until payment cleared. I never sent the final files. I never will. The wedding happened without me. Becca found a last-minute replacement, a friend of Chip's named Derek, who had a really nice Canon and did photography as a hobby. The photos, I heard through the grapevine, were terrible. Backlit ceremony shots, blurry first dance, half the formal portraits out of focus. The few that were usable had an orange color cast that made everyone look like Oompa Loompas. Our mutual friends were divided. Some said I was being petty and should have just let it go. Others, especially the ones who'd seen how hard I'd worked on those shoots, said Becca had it coming. One friend, Jenna, told me later that Becca had complained about me at her bachelorette party. Zoe thinks she's doing me this huge favor, Becca had apparently said. It's just taking pictures. How hard can it be? That stung more than anything else. Just taking pictures. 12 years of friendship, and that's what she thought of my life's work. I heard through Jenna that Becca's marriage to Chip lasted 14 months. The divorce was messy. Chip's family money was tied up in trusts, and Becca signed a prenup that left her with very little. She's living in a one-bedroom apartment in Tacoma now, working at a different tech company, no longer a director. I still think about her sometimes. Not with anger anymore. That faded after the first year. More with a kind of sad bewilderment. How do you know someone for 12 years and not really know them at all? I've photographed 200 weddings since then. Every contract is ironclad. Every client pays a deposit. And I never, ever work for friends. Here's what I learned, and what I want you to know. People who truly value you will pay for your work without being asked. People who don't will call your professionalism an attack. Becca wanted a $6,500 gift wrapped in $400 worth of sacrifice. She got neither. And somewhere on my hard drive, in a folder labeled Becca's Wedding and Paid, there are 400 images that will never see the light of day. If this story stayed with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you've ever been treated like free labor by someone who claimed to love you, tell me about it in the comments. I read every single one. Subscribe for more stories. The ending is always earned.